Yes, I
I'm
said
sorry,
something.
Terry, what?
I think we're gonna be live in a second, so.
Okay. Thank you. It is 5:35. Welcome to our September 21st Finance Committee meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to call, everybody introduce themselves, I suppose. We'll go that way. Jim?
Jim Lothridge.
Alyssa Tracy.
Andrea Dish, Business Manager.
Dave Dostey, Director of Operations.
Pat Hopkins, Superintendent. Becky Fless.
Patrick Saucier.
Nicole Medore.
Cullen McGough.
Thank you very much. Second item on the agenda is discussion of A, update on Public Law 2021, Chapter 213, an act authorizing an increase to the maximum annual fund balance for public school districts.
So I just wanted to make everyone aware that on June 15th, Governor Mills signed into public law an act authorizing to increase the maximum amount of fund balance for school districts to carry over. Usually during budget time, we talk about the 3%. The 3% is 5%. So fund balance is the amount that we are allowed, the district is allowed to carry on the books, and it needs to be used in the next 3 years. So the governor has increased that amount to 5% of the unallocated portion. And I just wanted to make everyone aware.
Any questions, anyone?
What would the dollar value of that 3% be for us?
It varies from year to year because it's based on the percentage of our budget. And she's also done an additional. So for the law also provides that for fiscal years 22, 23, 24, 25, the unallocated balances in excess of 9% may be carried over. So she's giving us additional monies. And just as a reminder, fund balance can really only be used for two things. It basically is used to buy down the local portion, the amount that goes to the four taxpayers. So we can use our fund balance to lower the increase in any given year. And the board can also choose to, with the public's approval at a general meeting, to move some of that fund balance to a special reserve fund. And you will see that on actually when we have the budget meeting, but we have done one of those in a couple of years. So, yep. And that's all I've got on that.
Great. Discussion about outstanding student lunch balances.
So that's me again. Linda and I were discussing students who have lunch accounts in arrears. So I asked her to give me a printout, and I'm not sharing the printout with you because it has student names on it, and obviously it's privileged. But at the end of last year, there was about $5,300 where students' accounts were having balance below negative balance, or I guess you can't have a below a negative balance, it's a negative balance. Now that the state is now providing free lunch for everyone, the discussion was whether or not the district wished to, for lack of a better term, forgive or wipe out the balance. The district gives more than $200,000 or allocates more than $200,000 per year to the school lunch fund, and that would easily, you could easily say that that portion is for that. So that is what I am, and Pat, I think we're both proposing earlier that we forgive these in years where we have tried to collect a balance, a negative balance in arrears. When a student is getting ready to graduate, there have always been issues. So we thought that we would bring this to you and ask what you would like us to do with it.
Jim,
And excuse me. What is the largest individual balance within that?
I saw one for over 600. So as a reminder, we are required to feed students regardless of whether we are required to feed students up to grade 6. Is up to grade 6 that we're required to provide lunch,
yes.
regardless of whether there are any funds in a
I
student.
wholeheartedly agree with that.
Mhm. So that is a state requirement, or actually maybe a federal requirement. So when we do that, however, we continue to tack the cost of the meals onto the student account, which obviously drives the student's account further in arrears. So by the time the student graduates, at the time they hit middle school, we are not required to provide a daily lunch like the elementary grades up to. So at that point, it doesn't continue to grow. So
I'm hearing you say it seems pretty easy to absorb and it would save a lot of time and energy.
it is
Makes
of no
sense.
additional cost to the district to
Yeah.
absorb those funds. No,
Do you want a motion on that? Is that what you're looking for?
that's signaling yes.
Okay, I'll make that motion as advised by Andrea to absorb outstanding school lunch
Thank
balances.
you.
Second,
Second by Paula. Questions, conversation?
just what's the approximate number of students that represent the 5,300?
Now you're gonna make me do math in my head.
I'm less concerned about the dollar value than I am about,
Population kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
who actually needs more help out there?
Question.
I would say about 170 students over all of our schools. So yeah.
A larger number than
I wanna- What's the lowest balance? Do we have a lot of small ones?
There are quite a few big ones, but there are more small ones that obviously than there are big ones, but the big ones are.
Pretty substantial.
Mhm.
The small one being, say, under $50, is that what you're thinking?
The small ones are, nah, the smallest one is, I can see one here for 50 cents. I just made her run the report for anyone who had a balance of less than 0. And that's what she provided.
Thank you.
We had somebody paying pennies
Mhm.
a few years back.
Is there a time frame that this just from the last couple of years, or is this something that?
No, typically it builds up. Well, this is obviously it's a K-5 school. So for some students, it may be their first year. For some students, it may be their 5th year. They may be 5th graders. So I don't think it, yeah, it does say grades, but I can't share that.
Good question. All right, then we have a motion and a second that we absorb this cost. All those in favor? Seeing no opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Update on the American Rescue Plan, ESSER 3.
Before that, I'd like to update you on the free and reduced applications, since we're talking about food service already, if that's okay.
That's fine, and yes. absolutely.
So as you know, we've discussed this many times. Historically, we've been really struggling in our district to get families to complete the free and reduced meals. And in the past, we've had incentives. We've given away technology and all kinds of things. This year, we tied the return of these applications to laptops. And so for those of you who are parents saw that, right? In order for a laptop to go home, we needed to have that form completed. I am really pleased to say that as a result, we've had a fantastic return. So we are we still have 411 students who owe applications. Most of them are from the high school. Like at Riverview, we only have 15. That's it. So it has been just a remarkable return, the best that we have ever seen. However, even though that we've had such a remarkable return, the majority of the applications that we're receiving, people are declining or telling us that they're just not eligible for the free and reduced meals. Now, we believe that a lot of this is due to the fact that every family can have a free meal. So since lunch is free, there's no need for them to give that information, or they don't see the need to provide us with that very personal information. Now, as we've discussed, there are many, many reasons why we need that, and it goes far beyond just free lunches. A lot of our federal dollars, our state subsidy, there are many, many things that are tied to that. But I thought I would just give you a brief update on where we stand. So I think when I first arrived, we were at least over 50% in the district, or we're low 50%. And we had some schools such as Riverview and LER, they were low 60s. So this is where we are today. Our district total so far, and we're still reaching out to these other families who haven't submitted. And so it won't be final until the end of the month. But as of today, our total is 34% as a district. And how that's broken down is at the high school, it's like 30.66%. The middle school is 37.3%. Helen Thompson is 27.88%. So they're not eligible at this point for access to our federal title money. That will all have to come out of local dollars. At LER, it's at 40.63. At Pittston Randolph, it's 30.24%. And at Riverview, it's 42.5%. And I am told that this is roughly 10% below last year. So while the return has been impressive, it has not improved our percentage. So we'll see what happens over the next week and a half. I was told that the information has been shared with building administrators. They're trying to reach out to encourage families who haven't completed this to complete it. And we'll see what happens. So we'll keep you posted.
Is it possible to get a reevaluation or a redo, I guess, of those that's declined to request any assistance? Can those that have said that they didn't think they qualified and didn't give any more information, is there any way to reach out to them and get them to reassess their decision or their personal evaluation? Because just thinking we're losing people. I mean, there are.
I mean, you can ask them to, but how do you can't force people to provide that information, so.
Send out, explain that, we're not just talking about free lunch. We're losing a teacher. We're losing
I think
another
some people
program.
don't know that connection when you say it, and I've certainly been here enough that I get it, right? And the form was easier, felt like in the past, it's like, well, fill it all out and then you determine, obviously, if you don't qualify, right? So then it seems like a chore, but this year it seemed like, oh, I'll just fill it out, right? So to that point, if there's a way to say, hey, by the way, these funds, while lunch is free, which we all kind of read about, if we don't have these things, we're gonna miss out on these things. I don't know. It's another angle to try, right? I know it's hard to.
Maybe
Actually
we
thought if
could,
I manned the phones and called people, please.
maybe we could work on this through our communication,
Oh, yeah,
the
like
board's
a
communication,
newsletter.
regular communication with the staff, et cetera. Maybe we could also have it be a regular recurring message through the school newsletters, just a little at a time to introduce people to the idea, to the concept, to what it means. We're not trying to be personal. This is what your free and reduced lunch form gets for your student.
Is October a date that's important
Yes.
though? That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
It's like timely. That's the other part,
Yeah.
right?
It's when the
10
state
days to do
sets its
something.
Yeah,
8279.
that's,
It's
yeah.
And how deeply into October do they do that?
October 1st is the freeze.
So that's deep enough.
So
Yeah, so we
So
don't
we've
have.
got a week and a half.
And so, as I said, I know that there's more work going on
Yeah, yeah.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
With our building administrators, and Angela has been working with Linda Surgeon, our
Mhm.
director of child nutrition, because it's Angela's grants that are most impacted by this, separate from
budget.
the budget.
Mhm.
And so she has a real vested interest in trying to get these numbers up as high as possible. So I know she's in close contact and they're doing what they can. And
The
so,
state has also did a campaign. I saw a newspaper article in the
Right.
paper. The
Yeah.
state was trying to educate parents about the need to fill out these applications and the effects it has on school districts. So, I mean, it's been an effort across the board. It's not just us, it's everyone, and they are well aware of what the free lunches are going to do to our sagging
impact there.
counts.
yeah.
Mhm.
and my colleagues are experiencing very similar results.
It's not just us.
Yeah.
Pat, can I just add a personal experience with the form? So like this year, we have 2 children in the district that attend the schools. And I happened to fill out my son's first because he was timely. And there's a space on the form for siblings that attend other schools. So I put Mary on there. And then just this week, we got notification from her teacher saying she can't take her laptop home because she hasn't filled it out. So I just wrote back and said, well, I filled her out on her brother's. So there may be just, I don't know, like as far as data coming in, if it I guarantee Mary was on that missing data list, but in fact, she was on her
Right.
brother's.
Interesting.
And then just to Jim's point too, in the past, filling out the free and reduced lunches, I give up, all the information and then get a letter from Linda that says, thanks, but you
Thanks
don't
for- yeah.
qualify. So then this year I checked off, I don't qualify, just to save Linda time was my thinking, but I understand that that could have, in the grand scheme of things, tweaked the data.
Right.
I'm just thinking of some of the places that we have had a lot of assistance given to some of the schools. And to have such low numbers that are saying that are turning out to be qualified. I know there are more people within those schools that should be getting this assistance. Granted, they're gonna get free lunches this year, next year, maybe the year after, but it will come to an end sooner or later, and by then, we may have just laid waste to some of our federal monies that we should be getting to assist us in other programs. So I'm very disheartened.
Yeah, do you want to?
Linda Surgeon has been crunching the numbers, so we know up at the central office where the lunch director is at, she knows that you've turned in your form. So when we finally get to the end, there's gonna be a message going out saying, hey, these people can take their laptop home. So there's just a disconnect.
Yeah.
Apology, definitely.
Oh, yeah, no sweat off my back. I mean, the teachers are great. I just wrote
Yeah.
back and said, I think, but, and I said too, but let me know if that's not the case. I'll fill out one for her. That takes 2 seconds, no problem, but it all worked out for us.
And my guess, Pat, that most of the yeses that we do have are from what's called direct cert. So they're called direct certification. They're DHHS reaching out to school districts, telling us of those students and those families who applied, who qualify for SNAP and for the other food programs. So they send those list of kids directly to us, so we don't actually need applications from them.
Oh, that's good. That's an improvement,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, thanks for adding that. No, they do
No,
that
that's
every
great.
year so that there is a
Excellent.
guarantee that those who need it the most automatically receive a free meal.
That's great. I did not know that that
May
happened.
I ask one or make a comment, just so people know, because same thing with the free lunch this year, I was like waiting and watching the accounts, right, to make sure there was money in there in case it didn't happen. And I know others may have seen it, but like milk and side things you still paid for, that's not included. So just a clarification, because I know I was like, oh, Louis still gets milk every day, cool. So I'll just make sure he's got his money in there for that, just an
So
awareness for folks that don't know that, yeah.
a la carte items, which
Yeah.
are on the side, which is what they call them at the high school, and the
Okay.
middle school level,
Yeah.
as well as snack milks.
Okay.
Those are
perfect.
not free.
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Correct, it's just the federal.
That's the lunch, yes,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you.
And thank you for
Question
bringing that up.
Yeah.
Are you reserving your text alert system for COVID info only? You might consider doing 1 or 2 text reminders about the importance of this. In my own line of work, there's been a really interesting curve shift between people who open their email and people who respond to text messages. And compliance is definitely higher among text
Those
messaging.
are text, that's why we send out both. I will check, again, I know that Angela has been working on this and has been really taking the lead and trying to talk about the importance, so let me speak with her about that idea. So
Yeah, that's a
between
good
the two
idea.
of us,
We've been holding off to send our laptops home because our MLTI laptops haven't come in yet.
Right.
And so we're really low, and we know if we send the laptops home that we have, we know the breakage will be a lot higher, and we just don't have the spares to send.
Yeah.
So and that's predicted in the middle of October for those to come in.
Oh, wow.
And so we're getting close, and I think that once those kids hear that they want those laptops, I think some of those forms will come back.
I know Victoria's words were, when we're worthy, I said, Victoria, it's not that, it's a technology life cycle. I completely agree with Terry. I went through the whole thing with her.
We're trying to
Yeah.
get them so that they respect the machines too.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, next. ESSER funds.
okay, so Terry, I have plugged this in. I want to show this to you, but I don't know how to get it up on the screen. All right, so while she is working her magic, I just want to remind members of the board that we have been working to finalize our application for the American Rescue Plan. As a reminder, we received a bit over 3.6 million to spend over the next couple of years. And that's where we have invested the majority of that money in staffing. And so the grant has been officially submitted. I received feedback almost immediately. I was impressed by how quickly the person at the state got back to us. And I have since resubmitted, made some changes and have resubmitted. So I thought, you've seen a lot of this, but now we have some finalized numbers. So I thought that I would just walk through this for you and for members of the public to see. So our first project, this is the one, if you remember, we had to set 20% of our overall project. We had to set it aside for what was called learning loss. And so we set aside the class size reduction. We called that our learning loss project. So we had to set aside 725,000 for that. And you'll see that we have 877. Now with this, keep in mind, some of these numbers may change. This is over 2 years. So we're estimating health insurance and benefits and that type of thing for year 2. So that's where our teachers are for our class size reduction. Then we have the mental health and wellness. That's where we have our new social workers and our Grace app. Remember, we talked about having that app available for students and for staff so that they could find resources should they need resources. We have money in here for summer school. Window replacement, it would be at the high school, at LER and Riverview. We're looking at outdoor classrooms at the middle school and the high school. So those would be on like posts, 4 posts, and there would be some type of
It's like a canopy roof.
canopy roof, thank you. The
Canopy roof made of what?
It's canvas material,
Oh,
so
good.
it's something we can take down for the winter time when it wouldn't need to be used, and we can store it indoors.
Cool. Thank you.
Implementation of systemic explicit instruction, that's where a lot of our curriculum for ELA, for math, for social studies, that's where that would be. Heating pumps at Helen Thompson. Gabe has been struggling, just so you know, to try to get Siemens or any other business at this point, just to give us estimates to replace some of our heat pumps. What Siemens proposed to do was to completely redesign our heating system at Helen Thompson for, what was it, $2 million?
It's 1.9 million.
It was like,
So-
no, we're not doing that. So this is in here, but we're still struggling a bit, just so you know. So I'm sure that number will change.
Yep.
Contact tracing and a lead nurse over 2 years, we have 30,000. As a reminder, most of our contact tracing has to occur, it ends up occurring outside of the school day. Happens at night, happens on weekends. And so it means that our nurses are working nights and weekends, so we pay them additional money for that. Our instructional coaches, we have the 2 additional instructional coaches, plus the instructional support person that's half-time at Helen Thompson. We have money in for COVID substitutes, that we need to have some permanent subs at the schools. So as we have staff who have to quarantine, or we have additional supervision issues in order to ensure the physical distancing is happening, we need to hire some substitutes that are assigned to each building. Put some money in for the business office to help provide invoicing support, so that that is not one more thing for everyone in the business office to do. There's some special ed assessment and professional development around Read 180 that is in there. We're looking at, we've talked about expanding the parking lot over at Pittston Randolph, and that would give us about 12 more parking spaces that would help alleviate some of the parking congestion. And now that we have the modular unit, we have more people in the building, we need that extra parking. We have money in to get internet and Wi-Fi down to Hope Field. And that way our PE classes can use their heart monitors down there. We have this heat server for Gabe that will allow him to manage and take care of all of our heating needs remotely, should that be needed. And our system is about ready to die, so he needs to pay for this out of our budget. So luckily, it qualifies under federal dollars, so we're excited about that. Bathroom, a staff bathroom at the middle school. As a reminder, we only have 1 staff bathroom at the middle school. So our staff, they're having to use bathrooms with our students. So this again qualifies because it helps separate them. PPE, I don't know how many masks we're going to use this year. We have the state that provides a lot free, but I put money in here in case we need some additional that we have to pay for ourselves, and some cleaning supplies and stuff like that. So that's in there. And then I was able to tweak out a little money. You haven't seen this before, but I pulled out a little money to help repair the bus and the parent drop-off sites at the high school and the middle school. So with all of this extra traffic, those of you who drive into those facilities, the pavement is it's awful. It's awful. And so we're just not accustomed to having so many vehicles. So we've set aside some money so that we can next summer do a skim coat and repair the parking bus loop, parent loop over at both the middle school and the high school. So that chunk of change should accomplish a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what we have. So there's our
There
total.
it is.
There it is.
Wow.
Nice.
And so it's a lot of money, but you can see it doesn't take
Yeah.
long to,
It's not a lot of items.
it's not. It's amazing how quickly it goes. We had to negotiate and pull things down. I mean, at one point that was at a higher amount, but since we're struggling just to get a company to provide us with any information, we redirected a little bit of it.
Is Siemens, why would Siemens want to just redo everything?
Newer stuff.
It's, yeah, I mean,
And I know things
Yeah,
change, but
it does change. They were looking also on the energy savings end, which they try to pitch it that way. So that way, if we're saving some money, that money would, be put back into the budget if we're saving.
were they
money.
wanting to do another performance-based contract?
We didn't really talk about that.
Mhm.
But yeah, to redo the system, and we also talked about putting CO2 sensors in so that everything would modulate for ventilation to make sure everything's ventilating properly. So yeah, it was the system that's there. It's a very tough design. And so looking at it, we would have to redo a lot of the components, and we can, where the mechanical rooms are, you can't just easily bring in a unit into those rooms because there's only a small access to it through the floor. So components would have to be either disassembled, or we'd actually have to bring it through the end of the building, through the attic section and in there. So a lot of the cost was just to get the components into those areas. So that's what drove the cost up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But to be clear, Becky, the problems with that heating system have been there since
Oh,
day
forever.
one.
They have.
Since they handed that building off to us, it was not a good design. It's never worked right. It's
Right.
always been,
No, we've been replacing
Expensive
and
and-
spending money out there forever.
so
Yes.
it's not a time thing. It's a,
The 360,000 that's there can go definitely towards replacing the aging and failing heat pump units that are in the classrooms. And then really we can look at the other components in those big mechanical rooms separately from this. So we can at least get something going on this instead of trying to redesign the whole system.
Great. Yeah, now's probably not the time to redesign the whole system.
Gabe, does each individual classroom have its own heat exchanger?
Yeah,
And
most.
outside?
Yeah. Yeah, so right.
Companion unit?
Right, so it has the mechanical, it has like two mechanical rooms. Those mechanical rooms have large units that feed all of the individual heat pumps in the classrooms. So the mechanical rooms really are the rooms that bring in the fresh air from outside,
Okay.
ventilate it out. So the fans are all working, but the actual heating units that are in there have failed. So it would take a complete re-engineering of those rooms.
I don't know anything about them, just, I know we put them in at our
Yeah.
town hall. Can you
Yeah.
put individual units with an
Yes.
inside and an outside unit?
Right, so
Plug them into the wall?
right, so a lot of people, when we hear heat pumps, they think of the ones you see on the side of your house, that sort of thing. These are what they're water source heat pumps, so it's different. It's the same sort of technology, but these are units that are up in the ceiling, in the ductwork with a fan. So it's a little different process than just the ones on the outside of the house, so, yeah. So these
Okay.
definitely do,
Cannot be
where you're
done.
running your house, just basically takes the air from inside and
Yes.
recirculates it. These bring in fresh air from outside through the ductwork. So it's a little different design. So there again, that's why when you're looking at these buildings, we can put new heat pumps in each room, but it takes a complete redesign
Yep.
of the whole system to really do it properly. So, and Andrea's right, it's been
Oh, it's been a problem
before my
forever.
time, I mean, I was not here when the school was built, so definitely it's been an issue from the start. It has, it's
Long
been a
time.
struggle.
I was a young man then.
You were a young man.
actually,
You're a young man now.
Helen Thompson's our youngest building,
Yes, it
so,
is.
Yes,
so, yeah.
yes, and that's, I think, why it's a you know, it's hard to look at it and putting, you know, this amount of money into it. So
Right.
It's hard. For sure.
Thank you, Gabe. Update on the modular units.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I had a
Yeah.
question about this. Does this go then from this committee to the board as a recommendation, or is this just an update on where your work's at?
This is just an update on where it stands. This has already been to the board. We've already talked about it. At this point, it has been officially submitted to the Department of Education. And so I'm just waiting for their approval. So there's no further action at this time.
Could I ask a question, just because I'm a curious person? Two of the biggest items are the class size reduction and the instructional coaches. Could you just talk a little bit about the strategy coming out of the ESSER funding so that we don't suddenly have a faculty who's used to having that extra lift that is no longer there? I mean, is this kind of figured into?
We were very clear when these individuals were hired that these were just 2-year positions. And that we were just trying to reduce class sizes so that they were a bit more manageable in the next 2 years to help address the learning loss. I'm sure that when those positions disappear, staff will feel the impact of that if class sizes indeed increase. The same with our instructional coaches. We had instructional coaches in our budget, but this added an additional math and an additional ELA. So again, I'm sure staff will feel the loss of those positions. But this year, we added a new ELA curriculum, a new math curriculum, a new social studies curriculum. And so we really wanted to front load the support for staff, for teachers, to help them learn and get comfortable with that new curriculum and the instructional practices that go with it. So in 2 years, when those positions are no longer with us, hopefully they will have learned the skills and have that knowledge base that they need so that they can continue on and be effective and successful with those curriculums. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I always hate when people see a short-term thing as like a new perpetual benefit. This probably won't be there in 2 years.
Right. We tried to be clear, but yeah, I'm sure we will feel the loss. A lot of schools have many instructional coaches, and we just have a couple. And so to have 4 of them, it's been phenomenal so far. And I'm certain there'll be many who will want to keep them, but unless there's
Something
money in the
miraculous.
budget, you know, so
Unless something miraculous happens, which it could.
you never know.
You never know.
Thanks, Pat.
You're welcome.
So the modulars,
Modulars.
what's the good news?
Well, the good news is Pittston is all completely put together, attached to the existing modular that's there. The inside's completely all completed. The only thing on the exterior that's left to do is the siding on the sides of the building and to replace the stairs on the back side of the building afterwards for the structure of it. The siding is back ordered, of course.
Of course it is.
It's just, it's been a theme.
Yep.
I will put it that way.
Isn't it made of recycled bottles, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Liquid
right, so
consumption
the siding is
rate.
back ordered. And they're saying it will be in by the end of next week. As soon as it's in, the company will be back to put the siding on and finish the skirting. So that'll complete the structure of it. Plumbers are scheduled to be in starting next week. And they will be doing the heating system also. Electrician has already started. He's already ran his lines under the building and will be tying in the last couple panels this week. So we'll be able to power the building up. They've been working with the schedule of the school to make sure that they don't disturb any of the classrooms. If they need to turn power off or do anything, they do it after 3:15, so not to disturb anybody. So,
Nice.
yep. So it's actually, it took less than a day for them to bring the 3 boxes in and slide them in place in watertight. So it was extremely fast. I was really impressed.
Great.
Yep.
Great.
Do we have enough desks, blackboards, whiteboards, I guess they are now,
Yeah.
and books and all the other things.
Sure,
that go
sure,
in the
so-
classroom.
So some of those items are tied into the Easter funding. So we will be putting, we have the projectors. Those we have. The whiteboards will be putting some temporary, I'm just gonna get a temporary board to put on the wall.
Okay.
Until they're the ones through the Easter fund are purchased and are in. I know there's also other items through the Easter fund that they have tagged bulletin boards, bookshelves, lockers, I do believe for them, those items. Those items would all need to be ordered.
When do we expect to have children in those classrooms?
I would like to say Pittston, we're shooting for the end of the first week in October. There's a workshop there. That's what we're shooting for.
Okay.
To hopefully have everything completed so they could take occupancy for staff to move their
It
stuff.
won't
into
be
those rooms.
complete, but it will be at least usable.
Right,
That's fine.
right. We won't have all the components. Yes, we do have desks. And I do have another batch of desks that are scheduled to be in next week that we've ordered months ago.
Good.
And there again, it's like everything else, they've been back ordered. They actually had to be reordered. And there's 36 or so additional desks that we've got coming in that we can use.
What's Helen Thompson?
So, Helen Thompson has 3 boxes put together. So they started this morning. And their hope is to get the other 3 boxes all set in place and tied in and watertight by the end of the day tomorrow. So that's the hope out there.
That's great.
So they are moving along as fast as they can. I talked to the foreman today and they have been completely booked and nonstop for about a year.
Yeah.
It has been a crazy ride, he said. So it's been interesting. They just last week, they did a 7 section unit in Brunswick. So down at the school system in Brunswick. So they have been as far north as Fort Kent, and they did one in Vermont a couple weeks ago. All over the New England they've been. Yep, so they're extremely busy and yeah, so they're coming along. I cannot give you a date of when we will be done the one at Helen Thompson, but hopefully it will not be far behind Pistons. That's my hope. So
That's great.
I have a question for Pat. At Helen Thompson, what's going in those modulars? Are those going to be for our special ed?
No, I believe it's grade 5 is
yeah, I
going
believe
out
it's-
there.
Is it 4-5?
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think it's 4-5.
Yeah, 4-5.
So those students that we brought in from others, didn't we move one of our special ed programs to?
Yeah, our STEPS program,
Yes.
we moved it from LER over to Helen Thompson, but they will remain in the building.
Okay, good.
We will not be segregating them and putting
That's
them.
great. That is very good. Okay, thank you.
That's a good update. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Good news. Future agenda items.
Can I just share one more piece very quickly?
Sure.
We have shared with you in the past about LD 993. If you remember, that is the new legislation that says that school districts have to give back sick days or personal days to anyone who used personal time related to COVID. As a reminder, as a school district, you decided that you were going to cover any employee who had to quarantine or if they became a positive as a result of their work. Days were only taken if it had nothing to do with the school, but you now have to give them back those days. So I wanted just to give you a brief update that that work has been done. And we're looking at a total of, that was on the other sheet of paper. I think it was 130 days, 130.5 or 75 days that have to be returned. And just so you know, that the value of that is roughly $26,000. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. Okay.
Okay, that's all that I have. Future items? All right then, meeting adjourned. Great, thank you. 6:20. Andrea, thank you. Gabe, thank you. You're welcome. Pat, thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, right? In no particular order, I think she was gonna say.
I don't know, who did she say first?
Yeah, right.